Greetings dear viewer and welcome to episode 5 of my survival Minecraft Let's Play. I am Iwat and as you can see we have started off this episode here in our starter base because behind me is the map wall. And as you can probably tell, the map wall is finished. In this episode I would like to do 3 things. Firstly, I would like to add some finishing touches to our map. And secondly, I would like to gather myself a large amount of coal and iron, because I am sick of constantly having a shortage of those 2 things. And thirdly, I want to build a villager breeder. That villager breeder is probably what the main part of this episode will consist of, because I want a fancy villager breeder. And because of that, I am not sure that we will be able to finish it in this episode, but we'll see how far we'll get. Can we please play the intro? Alright, let's get started. In between episodes, I have been trading with my cartographer villager, as you can see. And you might think that my map is now done. But actually, we can do something more. And I am going to use a feature that is in this game that I don't think that many people know of. In my inventory, I have 2 banners here that I named in the anvil. And when you place those down, and then you right click on it with a map, yeah, there you go, you get a little marker on the map right there. So it tells you where, that banner is in the world and what name it has. And I think that that is really fancy, and I am going to use that to mark some important points in our world here. And I think that's really nice. However, I am also going to copy the maps where I do that, simply because if you have a lot of these markers, it might get a little bit cluttered, and I'm not sure if I want that in the future. So yeah. Also, I think that I am going to quickly remove the villager box here, simply so the map shows more of what the world was when we started off, and not it shows practically nothing that we built in it yet, because I think that would be really nice to have. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, our map wall is now officially completed, because I added markers to everything that is relevant on this first map here. And yeah, as you can see over here, there is the starter base and our first nether portal. Over there is the first mining hole where we went mining in episode 2. And over there is the second mining hole where we went mining for a little bit in episode 3. Over there is spawn, and I just discovered that our spawn of our world is exactly at the coordinates 0, 0, which is interesting and actually very nice, I think. And over there, all the way to the right, is Salmon River. That is the river where we gathered our salmon for food in episode 1. Please note that the cow and sheep farm is not on here. That is somewhere around there, and it's not on here simply because I didn't take that map there. And I'm going to keep it that way, because this map is supposed to be like a pristine view of our world. This is how our world started. When I next update the map, I am not sure how often I'm going to do that. I am going to include the different things that we built. This is supposed to be like, this is what our world looked like when we first started. For example, this lava fall over here, I will probably block it off, because if you go there, it's actually very ugly. So yeah. But I wanted to include it on here simply because it's a very recognizable thing if you are at spawn. If you ever been in my world, that you will know what that looks like. If you went down there somewhere, you see that and you know immediately where you are. But yeah, now I'm going to lock all of these maps in the cartography table with some glass panes, and then we'll move on to the next project. In the previous episode, I built this path in the nether here, and there's another one in that direction. And they lead to 2 nether portals. And these nether portals are built in locations where I want to gather resources. And the first one is in a stony peaks biome where, oh yeah, Oh dear, that was actually very dangerous. Oh, that's still very dangerous. Oh dear, that's... okay. Yeah, okay, let's just flee. And, yeah, what was I saying? I completely lost my train of thought by that. Yeah, so this leads to a stony peaks biome. And that biome is very useful because it has high rates of coal and iron. And those are two resources that we want. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we went through the first portal and we arrived at the Stony Peaks biome, as you can see. But if you are right now thinking, what, are you blind? You clearly arrived at a jungle. Then you are correct, we are in a jungle. But the biome that we came for is over here, this stony area. Because this is the Stony Peaks biome, and this biome is just stone, exposed stone high up in your world, so it generates with a lot of exposed coal and exposed iron. The added benefit of coming over here is that we now have access to all of the things that the jungle has to offer. Jungle wood, bamboo, melons perhaps, and cocoa beans, and maybe a couple other things that I forget right now. But right now we are here for the coal and the iron, so I better start mining. And yeah, we'll see how much my inventory can carry, and yeah, let's start mining. And mining I did, as you can see in the time-lapse. I just ran around in the Stony Peaks biome, and I just mined all the ores that I came across. And from now on, I am convinced that this is the best way to get coal and iron in the early game. Just find yourself a Stony Peaks biome and just mine the ores that are there. This biome is not too big, so I just decided to practically mine everything that there was. It took me about half an hour actually, that's not too long, and as you will see in a minute, the result is absolutely amazing. We probably won't run out of coal and iron again in the near future, so that's great. Now we can use it without having to worry about running out. I wanted to see if we could make a clickbaity thumbnail out of this, but it turns out that we are just a little bit short of what we need for that. And it's not like we can acquire that much more here, simply because, well, I mined most of the easily visible ores that there are here, and our pickaxe is almost broken, so we kind of need to stop mining ores here. I think we need to go back home first, because I do still want to do some mining here. Because underneath this right here, there should be a lush caves biome, which would give us access to moss. And that is actually a resource that I really want. We could also come back here simply to get the jungle trees, the bamboo, and all of the things that the jungle has to offer. And yeah, let's go back home and let's drop all of this off. Alright, I went back to the base, dropped off our iron and our coal that we acquired, and I came back with some shears and with a new pickaxe that I bought off the villager using the emeralds that we mined here. And now it started raining, which is horrible. And I brought the shears because these things are here, and these are things that we cannot acquire at our base. Also, maybe for the vines we should use shears so that we can use vines now. I think we already have access to melons actually, because we got seeds from melons in a minecart chest or something, I'm not sure. But I do think that we already have access to melons. So it's now bamboo, jungle saplings, and cocoa beans that we need. And after that, I am going to try and dig myself a mine here somewhere. Because underneath this, there is a lush cave biome, and I kind of want moss blocks. I think that I have acquired everything that I wanted to acquire in the jungle biome here, and that means that I am out of here, and it will probably be a while until we come back here. Yeah, next up we are going to go to that other nether portal, because over there is a resource that I really want to build with. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, right now we are on the other side of the portal that we ended the previous episode at. And as you can see, we are in a snowy biome with a village. Now, I'm going to be very honest with you, I think that there is not too much time left in this episode. So I am just going to focus on getting spruce wood and some snow. Besides that, we can always come back for the stuff that is in the village, although I don't think that anything in this village is of great importance to us right now. Maybe there is beetroot, but we can always come back for that. Oh, there's a stray here. Let's kill it. Maybe we get some slowness arrows. Nope, we don't. Yeah, so I want spruce wood in order to build using this wood type. And yeah, I just want spruce wood for my villager breeder, and snow is always nice to have, because once you have a couple snow blocks, you can make a snow golem and get infinite snow that way. Alright, we are back home, and I have deposited all of the stuff that we just accumulated in the chests. Most of it is in here. There are also a couple things in other chests, but right now I have to check which resources for the villager breeder we have and which that we still need to gather. One of the resources that we do not have at this point in time that I really want is red wool, because I want to build the roof out of red wool, I think. We need to farm some spruce wood, that's also something that we need. We also need to farm oak wood, actually. And do we have enough redstone? 2 stacks? I think that will be roughly the amount that we need. Maybe we need a little bit more. We do not have enough gold, so we will be mining some gold in the nether. Is there anything else? I think that's practically everything that we need. So yeah, mainly the red wool. That's going to be the bottleneck, I think. So let's start with dyeing our sheep red. I just learned something new in Minecraft. You cannot dye sheep that do not have wool, so we can't do that. We have to wait until they regrow their wool before we can dye them. That's a very interesting thing that I did not know. Of course, if you want to build something, you have to pick a spot where to build it. And for my villager breeder, I think I want to build it over here, in this area right here, on this sort of hill. Not very visible that it's a hill from this perspective, but it is a hill. Over there, just between everything, you can maybe see that the wheat farm and the cow and sheep farm is over there. Our starter base is over in that direction. It's I think it's just out of the render distance. Right, but I picked my spot here because, well, there's trees everywhere, and since we need to gather some oak wood, I figured I would start gathering some oak wood right at the place where I wanted to start building, which is over here. And I think I will clear out quite a lot of trees, actually, simply because, well, we'll clear them out at some point anyway, so yeah, that's a thing. There is actually another resource that we do not have that is quite annoying to obtain, and that is white terracotta, because I want to use white terracotta in my build, and I think the best way to gather it is just to mine some clay and smelt it and dye it white, because we don't need absolutely huge amounts of it. We need around a stack of white terracotta blocks, so yeah, that's probably what we'll be doing. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I have here a chest in which I gathered a lot of different materials. These are the materials with which I want to build my villager breeder. Now, I think most of the stuff that we need for our villager breeder is in here. However, there are still a couple things missing. For example, the redstone and the gold, I think those two are still... we need more of that. Now, we can definitely get started with this, so that's what I will do, I think. However, I want to make a disclaimer, and that is I don't think I'm going to finish the villager breeder in this episode. And I think it's even not going to be functional in this episode, simply because I think there won't be time to do so in this episode, since I also want to explain how it works, and that takes a little bit of time. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, I made a time-lapse of me building the build in which I want to house my villager breeder. Now, as you can probably tell by the way I am building it, I am copying this from another world. Because I pre-designed this build in a creative world and, well, I am copying it over into our survival world. And that is probably something that I will do more often. Because designing and building stuff in creative is obviously just more easy, and yeah, it gives me a bit more freedom to undo things, and I mean, of course, you can fly in creative, so I think I'll do that more often. However, that doesn't mean that we have to pre-design all of our builds in a creative world and then just copy them in this world. For example, our starter base is a good example. I did not pre-design the starter base in a creative world. I just built that immediately in our survival world. Let me know what you think about this format, actually. Do you want me to build more on camera, like show you the process of placing the blocks from, well, my view? Or what do you prefer, actually? Do you like this time-lapse or not? Anyway, I can see that our build is getting close to where we are right now. The outside, the exterior is almost finished, so let's end this time-lapse. Our villager breeder and its mechanics are actually quite complicated, and that is because I wanted to add a lot of bells and whistles to it. Now, I still wanted to explain to you exactly how it works and what it does, and in order to do that, I sort of broke it up into all of its little components, so I can explain to you how everything works piece by piece. And I hope this explanation will be a little bit understandable. We are going to start right here with what, in my opinion, is the most essential piece. This is the actual villager breeder, the thing that makes baby villagers. What you have here is a farm and some beds. And in this farm over here, you are supposed to put 2 villagers, 2 farmer villagers with their composters over there. You can also use carrots and potatoes and maybe beetroots as well, but I'm not sure about the beetroots, don't trust me on that. Alright, what will happen is these farmers will start farming and they will start sharing their wheat and maybe crafting it into bread. I'm not sure how that works exactly. Or, well, they will share their potatoes and their carrots anyway if you use those. And as long as there is more beds over here than there are villagers over here, so more than 2 in our case, then they will eventually create baby villagers. Essential to note here is the setup with the trapdoors here. Now, usually we want these bottom ones to be open and never close them. And the villagers that are over here, the farmers, they will get stuck on this top trapdoor here and they will not be able to access the other room with the beds. However, they will still think they can. And when they make a baby villager, the baby villager will, at nighttime, try to go to the beds and it will then fall through this hole here because it doesn't notice that the trapdoors are open. And by using that, we can actually extract the baby villagers from here, and then we can move them and do all sorts of funny things with them. The placements of the beds is essential here, because if you place your beds like this or like this, I'm not sure which one it was, but in my original design for my villager breeder, I had one of the two. And somehow the villagers from the other side managed to get in, and then, yeah, they ended up on this side, and that breaks a lot of things. There are a couple things to note here. You need 2 blocks airspace above your bed, I think, or maybe even 3. I'm not sure about the exact specifics of that, but you need airspace above your bed so it won't work. And there is another thing here, this piston. We want to be able to turn off our villager farm. And if we do this, then the farmer villagers over here will notice that they cannot access these beds. And then, to them, it counts as if there are less beds than villagers in their village, and they should not make more baby villagers. So by powering this, by powering that piston, we essentially turn it off and they will not produce baby villagers. Also note that this trapdoor is, well, in that state right now. I don't think that that matters. I'm not sure about that. It's only afterwards when I was creating this mockup that I noticed that that happened. I think in the actual villager breeder that does not happen. Alright, now when we then get the baby villagers from this hole, we can actually collect them into something like this, in a little holding chamber. And what we have in there is a golden pressure plate in there. I'm not sure if you can see that. But using that golden pressure plate, we can sort of count how many are in there. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the 6th one is off. Right now there are 5 sheep on that golden pressure plate. And I am going to use that as a thing to measure when we should shut down the villager breeder over here. Because what we do is essentially we run that thing from the golden pressure plate over here, and then when there is, I don't know, 10 villagers in stock, we don't need to make more and the thing shuts down. Which is great because then, well, we won't be creating a lot of villagers. Now, of course, we want to move these villagers around, and the way we do that is by using a minecart rail track, a little trick here that we can use over here. So we have a dispenser here with a minecart in it, and we can power that, and it will send a minecart over here. And using this specific configuration of rails, we can actually pick the sheep and the villagers up through blocks. So if we power this, it's going to go very quickly. As you can see, it takes a sheep out. We can also use this same trick with the villagers. Also note that this should be now on 4. Yeah, it is. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And now that one is not powered anymore. Alright, now that we have our villager in a minecart, we want to do a lot of things with it. We want to first unlock its traits. That's on its own not very important mechanic. We just place a workstation next to it and we trade with it. And then we want to decide if it is a keeper or if we want to kill this villager and we want to get rid of it. And the way we do that is we can send it off using this button. And the way we decide what we want to do with that villager, keep it or kill it, is with a corner redstone rail like this. So if we flip this lever, if we power or unpower this redstone, you can see that the rail here switches to what direction it's pointing. And by that, we can choose where we want to send off our villager. Now, let's say that this is the good villager path. This is, you can send this off to wherever you want. We haven't hooked this up to anything in our villager breeder as well. Usually this would be to a thing to do the zombie curing thing and with golden apples and whatnot, but we don't worry about that right now. That's for a later project. The interesting part is actually right here, because if you do this, the sheep will go straight through, and we want to kill it. And the way we are going to kill our villagers and our sheep is by simply running it into a block like that so it suffocates. And let's actually do that. You can see it goes straight through and it goes into the block. That makes the sheep die and the villager as well. Then we can send it off again and we can do something with the minecart afterwards. We want to bring that back into the stock over at the beginning in the dispenser, but we'll fix that in a second. Step by step. Now, however, as you can see, I have to press a button here, and I don't like that because we can automate the pressing of the button here using a detector reel. Because if we have something like this, you can send the sheep into the block and then it will get power and it will come back out. Now, as you can see, we have, how many repeaters is this? This is 7 repeaters, and that is not enough to kill this sheep. That means that we need to make our delay longer, so we need to add more repeaters. And a sheep has less health than a villager, so you can imagine that the delay that the villager has to sit in this block is actually quite long. And that means that if we use repeaters for this, our thing is going to get quite big, and we don't want that. Instead, we use this, and this is perhaps the most complicated part of our villager breeder, I think. But a lot of this is like standard redstone. These are things that we can just puzzle together, essentially. So this redstone wire right here, up to this repeater, is essentially just a way to connect the detector rail to our circuit. And then there are 2 things here. There is a timer, which is the thing with the comparators over here. Oops, I fall down. And there is the thing with the redstone torch and the piston over here. And actually, let's show you what this timer does by, how do we do this? By placing a block right here. And there is a wandering trader here. Let's first check what this guy has to offer. Oh, I am going to trade with this guy. I'm going to get these mangrove propagules because I want that. Quick break. Alright, where was I? Yeah, I think I was explaining how the timer worked. And I think I can best explain that by powering it on and then turning it off again. Because as you can see, it stays powered for a while. And the strength of the power in this redstone dust right here, it goes slowly down until it reaches 0. Now, because of that, the redstone torch here is powered, so it turns off. And then we go into this circuit. And this is a very important circuit. This is one we will use more often in our world here, definitely. We call this a monostable circuit. And what this does is it will send a quick little pulse when this redstone wire comes on. How exactly this works is not too important, and we'll definitely build more of these. So if you really want an explanation, we can do that in a later episode. However, I have just done most of the editing of this episode, and I noticed that our episode is already getting quite long. So I need to end it right here, sadly, because there is still a couple things to explain, but I think there is just no more time left. I need a couple minutes and we don't have those. I would like to thank you for watching, and especially if you watched that last part, because redstone is definitely not something for everyone. This episode I really enjoyed because we made our first real fancy thing. That windmill build is really nice. And yeah, I hope we can build some more nice things in the future. Actually, we will, because I know what's coming. And yeah, I would like to thank you for watching. And that also brings me to the fact of this episode. And the fact of the video is that we shut down wind turbines if there is too much wind. I would like to thank you for watching. And I hope I can see you in the next episode. Goodbye. And actually, let's make something else a thing. Keep wondering. That's actually a really nice thing to end on. Keep wondering.